realized that if the schedule holds, this is my last day this year up here, right? So I figured I'd go break out the fancy here and step it up a little bit. Pastor keeps telling me I need to get another preaching jacket. I'm going to have to look into that. That stuff does get expensive. Everything does, right?
Yeah.
It's where your priorities are and what you're doing with your money. Anyway, no, that's actually not my lesson for today. But, all right, so before I give you the title, this is kind of a little bit of an amusing observation here. Probably not so much anymore, but Pastor used to tell me before, he said, you're a little too timid and a little too laid back. You should let your hair down a little bit. I think in actuality, my hair actually let itself down. Probably down to the floor level here, I think, pretty much, right? Matthew and Luke both state that God knows that the hairs of your head are numbered. Apparently, in my case, it doesn't take God very long to do that count. So then he moves on to the next person. Now, this one's going to be a chore, right? He's got like Elvis hair going on. It's like, oh, wow, okay. All right, so my message for today, this is number 4 right now. The other 2, what did we do first? First we did hope, right? Right? And then we did trial, right? Okay, so now we're going to do planting. All right, so my title is Springing Forth to Continue, or maybe in some cases to start, springing forth, to be bringing forth. So Isaiah made an observation, behold, I will do a new thing.
Yes.
Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. So what's he mean there? I will do a new thing, now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? So I'm getting ready to do something I haven't done before. Right? And sprung. So that means what? It's going to start tiny, right? I mean, don't things, trees, right? You've got an acorn, it's like this big, right? And yeah, it takes a little while. It ain't going to happen. You're not going to go out in the yard and put this thing in the dirt and come back the following morning, look out your bedroom window and go, I was expecting a tree by now. Okay, yeah, well, not that quick, right? But in the fullness of 50, 60, 70, 80, sometimes 100 years, how big can that tree get? And they can start out like that, and they can be so entirely massive that you can build a small house up in there, because I've seen people do that. You know, and they're this thick or more. And it all started out from something about the side of a gumball. So he says it's going to spring forth, right? Shall ye not know it? It's going to be obvious. This isn't going to be something that's hidden, right? The acorn you might not see if I got it tucked in my back pocket and I'm just walking around. I'm going to find a nice place to plant this thing. You don't see that, do you? And if you weren't there at the very second, you wouldn't see me plant it either. But if you came back 50 years later, it'd be like, that field used to be empty. Now there's a huge oak tree in the middle of it. Where'd that come from? Now the thing is known. It will even make a way in the wilderness and a river in the desert. Things that weren't before, now shall be. Things that were static and stagnant are going to change, aren't they? We have a river in the desert. Doesn't that sound unusual? I mean, isn't that technically the definition of a desert? Is there's no water, right? We think deserts are hot, and a lot of times they are. But you can actually have a desert that's basically freezing. It's not about the heat. It's about whether it has water or not. That's the whole actual science definition of desert. He says, now I'm going to completely flip that on its head and I'm going to have a river in the desert. Now, wouldn't you think that would be known? He says, shall you not know it? Right? Isn't a river running through the middle of the desert going to be pretty obvious? Anybody ever seen a picture of the Nile? Okay. Egypt is dust. Except all of a sudden you're rolling along here and all of a sudden, boom, this massive waterway. And all around it's palms and date trees and all of that. Go 2 miles in the opposite direction and what do you see? Dust, 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 and more dust. No palms and date trees growing out there, huh? It shall be known. 2 Corinthians. Right. Paul has observation to the church at Corinth. When I therefore was thus minded, did I use lightness? Or the things that I purposed, do I purpose according to the flesh, that with me there should be yea, yea, and nay, nay? Anybody want to have a hit on translating that? What's he saying? What's he saying? Huh. For the things I purpose, do I purpose according to myself? Is that what he's saying? He's saying the flesh, is he saying that God's leading? No. He's saying the opposite of God's leading, right? He's not listening to what he should be listening to. He's saying that I'm listening to this. Now, I'm confused. If I'm saying yes, is it yes? Or is it no? Is it no? But he doesn't leave it there, right? He keeps going. That wasn't the end of the chapter, thankfully. But as God is true, our word toward you was not yea and nay. For the Son of God, Jesus Christ, who was preached among you by us, even by me, and Silvanus and Timotheus, was not yea and nay, but in him was yea. And if he will not hear thee, then take with thee 1 or 2 more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. All right, so what was he saying there? He said if you're working from this, your own, right, you're going to be confused and may make other people confused as well. Because they're like, well, if this is what he just said 10 minutes ago, or this is what he said the last time I saw him, now he's telling me something completely different. Anybody know people like that? The story always changes. You never know whether you should really actually believe them. Are they telling me the truth this time? Or did they tell me the truth last time? Or are they always lying and none of this is factual? Right? Just about all of us probably know somebody like that, don't we? Or maybe more than one. Right? So, what's Paul saying to the church at Corinth? Beware of them. Mark the ones that are causing all this confusion. Right? Because where does it say confusion comes from? It ain't from God, is it? All right. So what did he say? He was talking about God. He said, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, who was preached among you by Silvanus and Timotheus, was not yea or nay, not confusing, not bouncing around, but in him was yea only. If he says yes, and that's guaranteed, that means yes. God will only give you 3 answers. Yes? No? Later. He never says maybe. You ever ask somebody over to your house for dinner and like, I'll see if I can make it. What does that usually mean? Oh man, he asked me to hang out at his house again. It's so boring when I go over there. I really don't want to, but then I don't want to hurt his feelings, so I'll see if I can make it. Right? You're just basically being nice and stringing him along, aren't you? Right? That's what we do to people. You ever see God do that to us? Thankfully, no, he does not. He's either going to look at something and he's going to give you 1 of 3 answers. If you're asking earnestly, you're praying to God, and he says, this is what this situation is, what happens? What am I doing? He's like, no, that's not going to be good for you. Don't touch it. Or, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. Go ahead, proceed. Or, the one that we never want to hear.
No.
proceed later. You're going to wait first, and then move forward. What does it say? Those that wait on the Lord, what? Renew their strength. What? Shall mount up as called wings of an eagle. Shall run and not be weary. Shall walk and not faint. But that's not the one we want to hear, is it? Because that means we have to just sit around for a period and do nothing. Who likes to sit around and do nothing? We're human, we're impatient. We have a short period of time. God's outside of time. We're not. So we're looking, going in. Days are passing. Weeks, months, years. Then you get the old, hey, my biological clock's ticking. What's going on here? You know, we having kids or not? Because we're stuck in that loop. We can't do anything about it. We can only progress forward in time. We can't go back, and we can't look at the end, and we can't circle around. But God can do all of those things because He's not confined by it. He created time, so He's not confined by time. So that's the one we hate most, is later, for the most part. Because if we just get a flat out no, it's like, okay, no. Come on. Okay. For you will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, than the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. Every word may be established. For all the promises of God in Him are yea, and in Him, amen, unto the glory of God by us. All the promises are in Him, yea. Is He a man that He should not lie? Yes. Is He the Son of Man that He must repent? He's going to tell us straight up, regardless. I'd say more than even odds, we're probably not going to want to hear what He's got to say, because we know what we want, or we think we want. And He's going to tell you, if you proceed down that path, it will be a train wreck, and I am telling you already because I know the end of the matter. So I am telling you, don't. And yeah, we still have free will, don't we? So we can heed that advice if we're smart, or because we're ruled by this pretty often, we just go ahead and ignore the good advice, the best advice ever, because it's the advice of the Creator, the Maker, the Almighty Ruler of everything, and He says, don't do it, and we do it anyway. And what usually happens after that? It usually ends, as people like to say, this is going to end poorly. And it usually does. But what did He point out in that one verse to the people of Corinth? That God never lies. What He says will come to pass, good or bad, like it or not like it. This is the real deal. It ain't going to change. He's not going to play games with you. He doesn't yay and nay. He doesn't tell you a different story next week. So we can depend on that, right? Okay, so you're saying, what does this have to do with anything? Why am I supposed to do with this? Well, we're all here today, and we're listening, as it likes to say, through the foolishness of preaching, and I'm probably about as foolish as any person I can think of, so just discount myself and let me get out of the way, right? You're receiving the word. Well, what about the people that aren't here? I see an awful lot of empty chairs. Right? We need to bring that, what we hear here, to somewhere else, right? Out to there. Right? So what was he saying about that as well, where he talked about in 19? He kind of circled around it, but there was more than one meaning there. So didn't he say, for the Son of God, Jesus Christ, who was preached among you by us, including Silvanus and Timotheus? So he's not saying, me, Paul, I'm Superman. I get out there and I tell everybody about this great gospel, and they're going to be like, oh, That's so cool. I'm coming with you to church. I have to. Wouldn't that be great if that actually worked that way? Unfortunately, it does not. What's the answer you usually get? Oh, well, I've been to a church before. Didn't really like it very much. Or, yeah, I know you guys. You have all those stupid rules. I want to have some fun. You guys are having fun. You don't do this. You don't do that. You don't go to this place. You don't get yourself blind drunk on Saturday night and wake up puking in the toilet Sunday morning. But hey, I want to have fun. So I don't want your church. Or, no, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Ah, I see. Okay. Or, it's not so bad if I'm just a good person, and I'm not, really doing anything too terrible. I know God's going to be like, sure. Well done now, faithful servant. Come on in. Enter into my kingdom and my rest. Or, another one that's on the short list of favorites. Oh, I watch this guy on TV. His name's Joel. And I love him. Because he loves me. It's going to be a great day. So I got to get to heaven because I'm watching Joel. Or TV. Or somebody. TV, huh? What did it say about failing not to assemble ourselves, especially as we see the day? Do we see the day? What does the day look like? Is it getting nice out there? It's going to get better, isn't it? It's not, is it? What's Revelation warn us? As it was looking like the days of Noah, so shall it be. Why did he have to wipe out the entire planet in the days of Noah? What was it looking like? It wasn't good. So you might think, hey, this is too overwhelming. How am I supposed to do this? I'm not Paul. I can't write like him. I can't speak like him. I can't preach like him. I can't proselytize like him. I can't spread the gospel like him. Because, hey, this guy went to, basically the Jewish Harvard. He was smart. That's all this guy did. He didn't have a regular job as such. He was taught from the beginning this was going to be his position. So how old was he when he started that school? Like, I can't keep up with this guy. It's ridiculous. I would never measure. Really? Did all the other fishermen go to Harvard too? Were they Ivy League? Were they Yale graduates? They were pushing the boat around, weren't they? And I'm not downing at all. Please understand. Fishermen are important, but this is not what they were trained for, was it? He just walked by one day, Jesus being, right? Walks by one day and says, drop what you're doing. I got something important here. Something really, really, really important here. And they're like, well, this is important. I need to eat. So is my family. This is my job. You're fishers of fish. I'm going to make you fishers of men. Isn't that what he told them? Didn't he say, just lay it down? All right? We're not going to regroup in a week. I'm not going to send you an email and tell you where the meeting's going to be. We're not going to exchange text messages and figure out if this thing actually works. You're just going to drop your stuff. You're going to leave your boat up on the shore where it's pulled, and we're going to go. And doesn't it record that they did that? They actually did, right? So you're going, wow, that's insane. I can't just quit my job and leave my family behind and all of this. I have to provide, right? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Those were special occasions. But if you really actually knew that God told you to do that for a fact, he will provide everything that you would need at that point, wouldn't he? Did he not tell them? He said, don't take thought for tomorrow. You don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry about that. He said, you don't need 2 jackets, cloaks, right? He said, one's sufficient. And then he said about it even to himself, that he says, where does the Son of Man have to lay his head? He owned no property, no house, no horse, no car. When he wanted to have the Last Supper with his closest 12, he had to borrow a building. When he wanted to go into Jerusalem, he had to borrow an ass. He didn't have a horse either. He really basically had nothing. So why should we find that impressive? You're like, what kind of king is that? Kings are supposed to have massive palaces to impress us with their stature and their wealth and their force and their authority and power, right? And he turns around and he says, none of that matters at all. I stepped off the highest throne there is, the one you can't even see, to come down to a ball of dirt that I made out of my hands, to come visit y'all for 33 years. And then he said what? When he turned them loose. 28:19, Matthew. Told him to go forth and teach, right? So are we supposed to be doing that? But he didn't say that you had to be Paul Smart to do that, did he? He just said get out there and do it. He didn't say there was a qualification, that you had to have some fantastic doctoral thesis degree on divinity to do this. Sorry, did you want to add something?
We have to realize giving up for the sake of the kingdom is required. That's one thing this generation is failing to do. We'll give up our family for our career. Amen. We'll give up our career for our family.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. You start a business, we're willing to take a loss or divert money from other areas to go into the business.
That's to work 70, 80 hours a week.
Right. We're willing to work 70, 80, 100 hours a week to get this business to become prosperous. Right? We do it with everything in life, but when it comes to working for God, we don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus was saying in that moment, look, I'm willing to come off the throne of heaven, wrap myself in flesh that I never was, to hang with y'all down here. 33 years. Right? To walk among y'all, to live among y'all. I left a holy place to stand on a place that's cursed.
That's true.
The ground is cursed. The Bible says he cursed before Adam sinned.
Yes, it did.
So he left a holy place to come down to a place where he's cursed, to walk among us, right? Went back up. His apostles left family, left their job, left country, to go all the way around the world to preach this gospel. And we get irritated when Pastor adds another day of service on here.
Mm-hmm.
We get irritated when Pastor say we need to do better in the tithes and offering. We get irritated when Pastor get on us about coming to church late. We get irritated with all that. But when it comes to us and what we need, we're willing to make the sacrifices for our family to make it, for our job to make it, for our business to come up. If we want an extra, what is it? We want extra, to show my boss I'm willing to do extra. I'll stay overtime.
Above and beyond.
Above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
But soon as God or the man of God said, I need it. You heathen. Well, say that to the things you do.
Mm-hmm.
See, the reason why the gospel is not being spread like it needs to be, because we made everything else important than God. You want the blessing? You want the financial blessing? You want everything to be on easy street that we give God did. That's why. And then you want to know why the world is being blessed. The first church gave everything. The men I grew up under, those hard men, gave up everything. And what we give up is nothing compared to it. And then we want to cry and act like we're doing a big thing for God, but we really ain't doing nothing. I want you to think about that. Because we're always on our knees asking God for what we need. We never get on our knees and say, God, what do you need? Because we're scared to ask that question. Because he's going to answer that question. And you're not going to be willing to give him what he wants. That's the truth. Paul never got married. That's what the Bible, because he chose not to. For the sake of the kingdom. He gave up marriage. He gave up the point.
Yep.
For God. Peter left his family.
Yes.
For God.
Says he had a mother-in-law.
So that means they gave up everything for God. And we can't give off nothing for God. So how are we going to win this war? We always talk about it. You remember those things? Oh, which one you read? What would Jesus do? You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
All on the neck,
Yeah.
got tattoos all over. And then when we look in the mirror and really think, what would Jesus do? We don't want to do it because it's called sacrifice. When I became a pastor, I thank you for dealing with this. When I became a pastor, I knew I would have to give up everything. I came home at 3 o'clock. Right? Got a call at 4. Dealing with somebody trying to get her to come to church. Praying over the phone. Didn't get to bed till 5:30. Had to be back up at 9:30. Didn't get up until 10. Had to go down there and pick somebody up for church. Now, that's what I do. To get here. Why? Because I said, when God called me, I'm giving it my all. Now, let me ask you a question. And I'm going to let you say it. How many of y'all are really giving me your all? If God came down here and judged you on a meter, where would you be at for 1 and 10? And if you critically look at that and really tell the truth, Shakespeare said, "To thy own self be true."
Yep.
Is that Shakespeare? To thy own self be true. If you could really be true to yourself, most of us will be at a 4. You wouldn't even be at a 5.
Back.
You add 10 minutes to your 1 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, so just to get back in with what he was saying and what I was saying. All right, so you're saying, okay, I'm not as smart as Super Paul over here. It didn't matter. Didn't matter then, did it? Were all the rest of them educated? Only Luke. Luke had medical background. Paul had theological background. What did the rest of them have? Really nothing and everything, because they were willing to drop everything. Okay, so all I know how to do right now is fish. This guy says he's going to teach me something new, and I can already feel that there's something different here. That's probably what they were thinking. I mean, they don't know this guy from Adam. He shows up and says, "Drop your stuff and come with me," and they're, "What? Wouldn't you?" I mean, what would you say if some guy with a long robe and a long beard just showed up one day and says, "You know what? Quit your job. You're coming with me for 3 years." Really? Are you sure about that, huh? The front row says, "Go smoke another one, hippie." You probably would say that. But we don't have to do this alone, do we? Even the apostles often traveled in pairs, didn't they? They worked together.
Yes.
One guy's weakness. One guy's weakness would cover the other, right? It's good for us when we're married. One day we might be like, "The world hates me. I hate my job. I hate this. I hate that. Everybody yelling at me. It's just sucks." And your wife says, "It'll be all right, babe. We'll get through this." And then 2 weeks later, when she's having that same day, you tell her the same thing, right? It's a team. We work together, right? That doesn't necessarily say that, if you have a wife or not, or a husband or not, you can't do anything. There's certainly other people that are able and hopefully willing to jump in to assist, right? Teamwork. Check out what James has to say. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. Didn't I talk about that last week? We talked about waves. I said, let me go get a bucket, catch a wave and bring it to you. What are you going to be looking at? You're going to go, it's a bucket full of salt water. Why'd you bring me that? No, you're crazy. There's a wave in there. I won't say anything. Just water, just laying in there. Well, take that bucket, join it with a whole bunch of others, and see what happens next. Anybody ever see that movie Perfect Storm? You see what that boat was literally looking like it was going to rocket, didn't it? It was pointing straight up and straight down. That's a wave. But it's gone that fast, isn't it? You see these horrible storms, and then they blow out sometimes within minutes or hours. The guy that got me into church was in the Navy during the Vietnam War. And he said they got caught in the Sea of Japan one time by a typhoon. He said the only ship that didn't come back that was all beat up was a battleship, because they're 14-inch thick solid steel plate welded together. They don't break very easy. He said the other ones, they were hammered. There were pieces missing. They blew the radars and the masts off. They came limping in. They were messed up. They got owned by that typhoon. But yet the following day, it's calm as glass and bright sunshine. Just rolls right through, doesn't it? And we get those same things coming through our life too, sometimes, don't we? It looks quiet, looks sunny, looks peaceful. Wham! 7, he says, for let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. Double-minded. So he says, let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. He that wavers is like a wave. And then he jumps to a double-minded man. What are those two things? Have a little bit of peace in common. Waves are never still, right? And they're often, most of the time, usually, unpredictable. Right? Anybody ever hear the theory of rogue wave? That ships sometimes are just cruising along and it might only be 2 or 3 foot seas and it's a good sized ship and everything's fine. They're like, yeah, we're handling this all right. And all of a sudden just this 30-footer comes out of your place. There was a German cargo ship that just disappeared one day in fairly good weather. Nobody could figure it out. And then they started finding out from satellite images and other things of that nature that every once in a while, way out in the middle of the open ocean, really weird things happen. And they're very random. A double-minded man is going to be just like that. It might look smooth and all of a sudden they just explode. But why is he so angry? Why is he yelling at me over what I just said? I said nothing wrong. He doesn't know where he's going, does he? He's got a new direction. Let me give you a little analogy here. So in physics, a coil spring is a device that contains and stores energy when they're compressed. Everybody know what one of them looks like, right? Like a big corkscrew. Okay. Most automobiles have 4 of these. Now, some, like my Nissan, my pickup, have leaf springs in the back and coils in the front. The leaf springs really aren't that dangerous. They just have a little bit of a bend to them. And when you take them apart, they basically just go and then fall out. Coils are always under tension when they're installed. Those can really wreck your day.
Basically, coils C-O-I-L or coils C-O-R-A-L.
Coil, C-O-I-L.
Coil.
Yes. So when they've been installed, their energy, which is trapped in there, must be released in a controlled fashion to avoid serious injury or death. Proper tools and training are needed to handle that. Energy and zeal for God are kind of like big coil springs. Paul said, some say, I will show you my faith by my faith. Paul said, I will show you my faith by my works. That, without works, my faith is dead. Now, works are good, but they can be like a coal spring. You might be all wound up and ready to go. Massive amount of zeal. You just want to talk to everybody that you run into. Anybody ever run into somebody like that? It was just a brand new convert, and they just they have verbal diarrhea. They just throw up all over you. You know, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. I just found out. You're going to hell. You're like, yeah, it's not helping. But if you nicely and politely and lovingly and taking time show them why this is true, then they're most likely going to go, oh, wow. Okay. Now, they may still reject it. People still have free will. They will. But some of them might go, I understand what he's saying. I've never seen this before. Wow. Okay. Well, I don't want to go to that place. You show me how I avoid it. Okay.
What are we avoiding? Jail?
Yeah. So like I said, proper tools and training are needed to handle them, right?
Yeah.
Now, works are good. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking what you just said, I what you said earlier too about plant.
Mm-hmm.
Plant the seed,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on God gives you
Right.
some
water.
water, some plant, God gives you. You don't
Absolutely.
see it right away.
Most of the time, no. That's true.
Even when people talk to you, I don't, when they witness to me, I listen to what they said, and then later on, I didn't see it right away.
Right. Few.
Take time to grow.
Right. Few people have a soul conversion experience. They don't. It's not just trying to make a good noise here. There you go. Boom. I'm like, wow. Okay, I get it. I'm never going to do what I was doing before. Now we're going this way. Like you said, most people, it's gonna be time to get there. You might reject it for quite a while. I was a hardhead. I liked my rock and roll music. I wanted, when I was old enough to go drinking Friday night, Saturday night. It was fun, or at least I thought it was. And no, actually, I never got a hangover. It was funny. Maybe I didn't drink enough, or maybe I just was not one of those people who easily gets hangovers. But I thought that was fun. I didn't want to give it up. It took a while for me to give it up. But let me get this before
How did you look back at that day?
Thinner.
Mullet? Did you have a mullet? You had long hair?
Yeah, I actually did have hair. Yeah, and when I let it go a little bit, if I grabbed the front and pulled fairly hard, I could touch the end of my nose with my front locks.
You had dreads?
No, I didn't have dreads.
It doesn't look like
They were certainly longer than they are now. Now, if I tried that now, I'd end up looking like Phil Collins. He's got no hair on top, but like, this hanging way down in the back. It's like, dude, you either need to ponytail that thing or cut it off. You look ridiculous. Works are good, but they must be directed.
That's right.
Another analogy for you. If I go buy a huge pile of lumber and I order 2 trucks full of concrete, and I have a jackhammer and a bunch of shovels and a tail end loader, bucket scoop and all that, right? And I've just got me a nice piece of land. I'm gonna cut down these trees that are in the way, and I'm going to build me a really kicking house right here. But if I have no blueprints, I have no permits, I have no plans, I have a lot of lumber, I have a lot of concrete, I have a lot of electrical wire, and I have a lot of pipe. And I'm going to have what when I'm done? Most likely, probably something that not only is going to scare the neighbors to death, if I have any neighbors that close, but it's probably going to fall on me and be very unsafe, isn't it? Or may catch fire if I don't know anything about electricity and I do all that wrong. But, hey, people riding by during that period, man, they see a lot going on, don't they? They hear me at 2 o'clock in the morning hammering, all right? They're probably mad. They hear me at 10 o'clock firing up the bucket loader, that big diesel. You see it riding around in the yard, and I'm digging holes all over the place. Like, wow, this is great. This guy really is getting it done. He knows what he's doing, right? It's Larry the Cable Guy. Get her done! Well, I got her done, and it's a death trap. I had zeal. I had ambition.
That's right.
I had tools.
Come on here.
And I wrecked it.
That's right.
Didn't I? I made a complete and utter disaster
Boy, you
out of what a professional could have made something really nice.
Come on here. I hear you, D.
The Ark was built by amateurs, the Titanic by professionals.
Yes, true.
But who was in charge of each one? The engineers that built the Titanic were the smartest on the planet at the time. They knew what they were doing, or so they thought, and they still made some fatal flaws, didn't they? But we can look back now, 105 years later, and look at that ship and go, that was really impressive, but boy, that was stupid. That right there was stupid. That you never should have done. That was stupid. And none of those things were obvious to them at the time. But they had a lot of ambition and a lot of zeal, didn't they? They built 3 of those ships. And they were huge. They were the biggest moving things on the planet at the time. And they were impressive. They had steam heat. They had ventilation. They had a pool on board. They had a hot tub. They had a sauna. They had a gym. Look, this ship was hooked up if you could afford to ride it. And yet still, look what happened to it. They spent all those years building it, and it sank 4 days after it left port. The Ark was built by amateurs and lasted a year. It didn't have to last longer than a year. Right? So what did he say it was made out of? It was gopher wood, right? And then it said you're going to pitch it within and without. So they tarred this whole thing. Right? So if there were no boring insects that were getting into this wood, how long could that ship have lasted? Possibly hundreds of years. Wood, if it's preserved right, it's an amazing material. It just falls apart because it gets wet. And stuff goes after it and it rots. But if you keep it from rotting, and there's buildings in Europe that are over 1,000 years old made out of wood. They're still there. They're not falling down. You have to know what you're doing. You can have all kinds of drive and all kinds of, I'm going on God's zeal. And you're all over the place going crazy and just making things worse. Works without planning. Again to the church at Corinth. Paul says 9:24, know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but only one receiveth the prize. So run, ye may obtain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown. So what does the guy get at the end of the race? If it was NASCAR back in the day, you got a Winston Cup. Well, I can't do that anymore, right? Because that's cigarettes and like that. So it's not Winston anymore. Who is it now? Is it Nextel? It's still Nextel?
No. Monster Energy.
Oh, it's Monster Energy now. Yeah. Okay. Well, you can see how closely I've been following NASCAR recently. You don't have time. Anyway, okay, so now it's an energy drink that's sponsoring them. But they would give you this giant trophy, right? You got to the end of the season, you won the most races according to that crazy arcane thing that they have all these different points and all. And the manufacturer would win, Chevrolet, Ford, whatever, they would get a recognition, and so does the driver. And what? That and $2 will get you a coffee, right? And then what happens? They come back the next year and do it all over again, don't they? Because if you were champion last year, what does that buy you? You got paid well, for sure, but can you walk up and go, hey, you know what? I was champion last year, so I'm still champion this year. No, you're not. You didn't win the series yet. It doesn't work that way. You got a temporary crown, didn't you? You were king for one season. That's what he's saying. They're going after a corruptible, a non-permanent, a temporal crown. We chase an incorruptible. I therefore so run, not as uncertainly. So fight I, not as one that beats the air. I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means. All right, let me stop right there for a second. You used to train martial art, right, Pastor?
Somewhat, yeah.
Did you guys do air boxing? Did you fight nothing? And when you were doing that, did you feel a solid hit on that airbag? See, I got nothing going on here. I'm probably doing it wrong too because I was never trained. But I'm not punching anything, am I? I'm just beating the air. So what am I accomplishing? Other than stirring up a few air molecules here, which you can't see, but they're moving, right? I'm shadow boxing. What was he saying right there? If you're just beating the air, you're accomplishing nothing, aren't you? Other than maybe if you're shown the correct way that you're practicing, maybe jabs, footwork, and however that goes, right? But eventually, you're going to what? You're going to have somebody else there with you, right? Practicing. You're supposed to not, I'm assuming you're not supposed to actually hurt the guy at the time, right? But you're going to take some hits, aren't you? Because when you're training, you might step in at the time that he's throwing, right? You might walk into a left hook, or maybe he's just having a bad day, decides to pummel you a little bit harder than he's supposed to be, and then you get in the ring for real. And then he's doing it purposely that time, isn't he? He's like, I'm going to knock this guy out because I can get me that nice temporal crown. Right? You get that WWE, that giant crazy belt they got with all the fancy chrome color on it, right? He throws it over his shoulder.
Yeah!
I'm the greatest! For this season. And then they come back and they want to fight again, right? So that was him saying, so I run, not as uncertainly, so fight I, not as one that beateth the air. I keep under my body and bring it to subjection.
That's right.
Lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself
Be a castaway.
should be a castaway.
Gentlemen!
What does it mean? What's a castaway? Yeah, anybody ever watch that Tom Hanks movie? Didn't he have a soccer ball? Right? And didn't he stick things in it to make it look like hair, if I remember correctly? It's been many, many years since I watched it, but yeah, Wilson, right? He talked to the soccer ball because I guess he had nobody else to talk to. He was trying his best not to lose his mind. Talking to a soccer ball, some people might say you're already there, but he was working on it anyway, right? Castaway. Paul's saying that I'm going to show other people the right way, and I'm going to blow it anyway. You're going to get to heaven, and you're going to go, hey, where's that Paul guy? He was great. I want to talk to him. Thank you for getting me here. This place is amazing. That gate is made out of one giant piece of pearl. This is I ain't ever seen anything like this. Oh, he's not here. He's not here. He has to be here. He told me how to get here. How could he not be here if he was the guy? Well, he wasn't guiding me to him. He was guiding me to Christ, but he didn't follow. So you're here and he's not.
Come on here.
Whoa. So how many people know people that got into church and the people that brought them in are gone?
Come on here.
Who's a castaway and who's a follower?
Go
All right, let me wrap this up.
ahead, deal with it.
Would it seem reasonable that I could just decide in my head one day that in 2 weeks I'm going to jump on a jet and fly to Boston and win the Boston Marathon? Not very likely, is it? I mean, look at me. They keep telling me I'm out of shape. I said that's ridiculous. Rounds of shape.
No, they ain't.
Those runners train for years, possibly decades, to take on that 26-mile sprint, beating themselves practically to death along the way. You see some of these guys are crawling by the time they get to the end. They're like, I don't care. I am going to drag across on my nose doing the worm wiggle. If I have to, I'm going to finish this thing. Right? Now, some people, if they're in maximum condition, they're still running at the end. They're like, whoop, across the finish line. And 3 hours later, this poor guy, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I will. Oh. He made it. Everybody else went home already. The cameras are turned off. Nobody cares. But he didn't quit, did he? Somebody saw him cross the finish line.
That's right.
Even if it was only the judges, they're sitting there going, I want to go home. I really want to go home. But we can't leave until the last guy crosses the line. Let's call up Uber Eats. All right, I'm going to finish this up real quick here. One more example. Soldiers are not handed camo clothes, a Bowie knife, a box of ammo, and an M16 and sent out at random to go fight a determined enemy. They're trained step by step. You're inducted in the military, you go to boot camp. If you prefer, you choose a specialization, which then sends you somewhere else for more training, and then you're eventually deployed to the field. Obviously, I'm simplifying this a bit, but y'all get where I'm going. Everything was done decency and order. Now, I didn't choose a soldier example at random because it's quite appropriate to my theme. A timid soldier is often a dead soldier. Movement is life. In a firefight, you're either moving or under cover, but you're doing so purposefully. Standing still makes you two things: a target and a casualty. And what does that do from there? Somebody else is probably going to try to run out to pull your stupid behind back in, aren't they? And they may get shot while doing it. And if they don't, even so, you've reduced the strength of your company by at least one man, haven't you? So if that happens over and over, what occurs eventually? That squad gets overrun by the enemy, either gets captured or wiped out for the last man because you didn't do your job. Jesus told Peter, he is the rock, Cephas, and upon this shall I build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against thee. I've never seen a gate mounted with a cannon turret, an automatic weapon, embouchure, or a missile rack. A gate is a defensive object and is there for one of two reasons. Either the wall is so massive and impregnable that you're not afraid of what's going on outside, or you just got delivered the hiney whooping of your life, and that gate is the last thing standing between you and complete annihilation. Is Lucifer all powerful? We know he's not. Though sometimes we give him so much credit that by this some may think so. John says everything was made by God, and without him was not anything made that was made. So Lucifer is subject to God just as we are. Take a look at the beginning of Job and see who's asking for permission, begging for permission, and who is giving permission. So hell is Lucifer's kingdom. If he's not the baddest boy on the block, then that means he's going to lose eventually, isn't he?
Yes.
And we know that to be true. Right now, God is tolerating his antics. But in Revelation 20, it mentions that not even himself, but just an angel sent to take care of the job, notice that, is going to take him and put him in a bottomless pit when his day has come. So he isn't the all-powerful boogeyman after all, is he? It also states that death and hell shall be cast into the lake of fire. So that gate that Jesus referred to is not the portal to an unreachable wall, but simply a door into a temporary fortress that shall be overrun and sacked. A gate doesn't chase you around and try to kill you, does it? So what is he telling us? Isn't that kind of an unusual statement? I think some people gloss over that when it says the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. They're thinking that we need to be running away, that we're getting attacked and having our butts stomped. And actually, the truth of it is completely the opposite. That's a defensive measure. Because he knows what his ultimate fate's going to be. So we need to get out there and tell everybody else that fact so that they don't end up with him. So springeth forth to continue bringing forth. Amen.
Give God praise.
Hallelujah.